For not so long ago, I made a video where I talked about things that 4 years of game design has taught me. And in this video, I want to be a little bit more broad and talk about the tips, tricks, and valuable advice that I learned after making games for this long, for about 10 years. If you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment on this video and also join our Discord server where we have over 10,000 active game developers, which you can join by going to the link in the description. So I'm going to start by sharing some tips and begin with the basics. Then I'll get into more advanced lessons I've learned through my time and share some of my experiences. But first, this video is brought to you by Milah Note. Milah Note is an easy-to-use tool to organize your ideas and projects into visual boards. It has a flexible drag-and-drop interface which lets you arrange things in whatever way makes sense for your projects. Simple text editing and task management make it easy to add your thoughts to a board. Milah Note supports all common file types, including JPGs, PDFs, Word, Excel, common design files, and many more. The Milah Note web clipper lets you save inspiration and ideas from any website with a single click. Milah Note is also something that I was going to talk about in this video actually, because this kind of planning solution is what became a game changer for me in my game development career. It's super useful when working on a single or multiple projects all at once, no matter if you work alone or with a team. If you want to learn more about Milah Note, make sure to check out the link in the description below. Alright, so let's get started with this video. So just a little bit of backstory of myself. I started with game development when I was 12 years old, and I started because I was interested in creative vision, basically had a creative vision, and I loved computers, and I was especially fond of graphics and stuff that looked cool on the computer. I am self-taught, which means that I didn't go to school to learn programming or game development, and I haven't even gone to college, and I don't actually think that I ever will, but which we'll talk about later. So I learned through watching tutorials, reading articles, and just simply trying things I was interested in. I was never in the mentality of like, oh, I want to read about this first, because I always love to just straight up try things out and press a bunch of buttons and figure out what to do, which is funny because I've always been like this, and I still am, so whenever I buy something new like a car, you should see me because I press literally anything I can get a hold of. So about school, game development is one of those branches where you don't necessarily need a degree in, though I'm not saying that it's bad to get one, obviously. Like you can get a job or even start up your own game studio without a degree as well, and I simply put a lot of trust in the knowledge that I gained by myself, and so I wanted to spend my time learning from industry veterans, which is also one of the biggest reasons to why I work at Unity Technologies right now. It's a highly popular question that people always ask me, do you need school for game dev? And I always say you don't, because you can find jobs without a degree too, just like I did. But if you want to get one just because, or you simply have another reason, then good for you. Under this period of time, I realized very late, unfortunately, that working from home is something that is very appealing at first because you think it's cool and it's finally not mandatory for you to go somewhere just to do work like at school or regular jobs. However, after doing it for a long time, you realize it's actually just a waste of time, and here's why. You simply lack the ability to socialize with people because you often lose track of time when working on your game. It really makes you feel like the walls are closing in on you after a few months of doing so. Even if you hang out with friends every week or weekend, it just doesn't feel as good as working from an office or just generally speaking where other people hang out. When working from an office, or maybe even your local library, like literally nothing too complex, you see people, you observe different conversations, and most importantly, you get some fresh air. Working with other people also allows you to have access to some raw feedback, which is always good. And I'm saying always good because when you work alone on a project for several months, you normally start looking at it from a negative perspective. Because imagine this, you literally live with this project, go to sleep, wake up, and then live with it again for another 15 hours or so. It's not healthy, and after a while, you stop observing the things that should change and start looking at things that aren't broken, but you feel like they're boring now and want to change them. Having access to other people around you who can look at it and give you some real feedback is way more valuable because they're seeing it for the first time or maybe even the second, third, or X amount of times. But the point is, they they haven't been looking at this project for 15 hours a day, unlike you. And I know for a fact that whatever I say right now is going to be like, oh, what are you talking about, sykoo? Like, obviously, it's a big luxury working from home. And yeah, it kind of is. But working from home for 4 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years, then you're going to understand what I'm saying. And I'm just saying this already so that you don't fall into this pit of fire where people think like, oh, it's such a luxury to work from home, because it kind of is, but also it's a big burden that you have to deal with every day when you're actually doing it. For another topic, I would also like to mention that failing is a huge part of learning. You will fail, and it's normal. Failing doesn't mean that your entire game dev career is over all of a sudden, because your first projects are probably not going to be very good. But that's normal. I can't bear to watch my videos even from a year ago, let alone for 4 years ago. And in 1 year from now, I probably won't even like my current videos as much as I do right now. I've seen a lot of people who go, oh, I don't feel like I'm ready to do this, or not ready to get started, or don't want to risk failing, but it's not something you should fear. We all failed sometimes when we got started, and I didn't get the job at Unity because I was perfect when I was getting started. I'm not even perfect now, and it's impossible to be, and that's my point. There will be flaws, and the point of learning is to learn how to fix those flaws. And that's just the way it is, you know what I mean? If you're a programmer, you can't remember all the lines of code in the world just by yourself. It's not possible. There are way too many use cases and a bunch of different factors that I could name for all day long. But just keep in mind that a big portion of the learning phase is to get used to the fact that it's normal to make mistakes, and you will make mistakes and you can solve them. And so if the only reason you're not getting started with game development or learning game development to begin with is the fact that you fear failing, it pretty much means, to me at least, that you're not starting because you fear the biggest and most crucial part of making games, which is basically making mistakes and then fixing them. Because it's a lot about problem solving, and that's what you're gonna have to get used to during the learning phase. So if you fail, it's normal. I mean, some things you just have to go out there and try. Like, you can watch hundreds of videos on how to drive a car, but if you don't practically try it, the theory doesn't make a difference. Same thing about game development. You can watch all 10 tutorials I have on game or how to design an environment, which you should, by the way, the link is in the description. But if you don't try it for yourself, it won't really click. Like, you will be too robust with the features that I cover. So go out there, try learning, and embrace failing, because it will happen and you're supposed to fail in order to improve and keep learning. Oh, and one more thing, you will always use Google. So if you're out there thinking that we, game developers of 10 years, 15 years are not using Google, you're lying to yourself. You're living in a very nice dream world that I wish I was in, but I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, we're always using Google, and you will too. It's so funny actually, because thinking back to my learning phase, I was like, oh my God, look at these programmers being so professional and knowing how to code without looking at Google. And then I was in like my 5th year or something, and I was still looking at Google, and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so bad, maybe I should give up. And then I start working with these people, professionally speaking, and they're like, how do I fix this? Where are the papers? Where are the codes, Garrett? And I was just sitting there like, okay, so it's probably normal then. All right, so let's also talk a little bit about, I don't know why I flipped my fingers. Let's talk about starting with big projects and completing them, because you've probably heard the advice before, don't start with big projects. And I gotta say, I personally agree with them. When you're new and just learning, you will probably have a bunch of different ideas that you're most likely gonna wanna try, and just like most other people in game development, gonna wanna work on them too. And that bears some problems as far as I can see. Problem number one is that if you only work on a big project, you will start creating mechanics and features that are too specific for that game, which is going to limit you from learning other things that are equally as important to learn while you're getting started. And that's why I think that making small and quick projects when you're just starting out is useful, because you get to try out a lot and a big variety of different things and get to know what you enjoy and what you enjoy less. Like, for instance, you may enjoy programming, but you may dislike game design, or you may love making FPS games, but hate the workflow of making 2D games. And it's not really all about like focusing on one thing only. Like, if you make FPS games and hate 2D games, don't do 2D games. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it will make it easier for you to learn what you like first and foremost, and then move forward with your plan. Problem number 2, when you have so many other projects in your mind and you're only getting started, the more you're able to accomplish while learning, the more excited you will get. And that's gonna sway you away from your main project, and then you will end up juggling between 12 different projects, which can easily burn you out. So I think it's worth being patient, take it step by step, and just simply don't rush things up. A couple more quick tips that I learned is, number 1, I learned that making games, especially big games, is that they require a lot of work from you even after release. So you have to keep fixing issues, and if it becomes a popular game, it's even more work. And that's also one of the reasons to why I'm saying that making small and quick projects can be more useful than working on your main game idea, because when you're learning, you probably don't want to try and figure out a release plan already. You should be focusing on learning and how to do things. And on top of that, if you make a serious game, you will need to build a community for it in order to get people playing and learn more about marketing and so on. And this is actually fine since I recommend everybody to know these things anyway, but when you're in the learning phase of game development, just game development, not marketing, you should put all your focus on it instead of swaying off to other topics like marketing. These are all individual branches that work together, but each of them take time and patience to learn. Another quick topic that I want to cover is being organized. So when making games, it's really important to make sure that you have yourself organized and your project. Don't forget that your health comes as main priority, so take care of it. Go outside, have fun, enjoy your life, and learn while doing so. Organize your project by creating yourself a schedule. Have an organized roadmap of what you want to do when you want to do it. Planning solutions like Milah Note, the sponsor of this video, are super useful for this reason. It was a game changer for me too, because that eliminated the risk of getting burnt out so easily. And for the love of God, I mean, mark my words, make backups. Don't skip it. It's super crucial. We all work on computers, and our files, folders, projects, and even whole disks can get corrupted sometimes. Make backups. Save yourself from future pain. Sounds like an advertisement for making backups. Oh, and one more way of being organized and trying different small projects is by attending game jams. So one important note is that don't forget that game jams are not designed to act as competitions. They're basically like small and challenging events where you learn a lot with either a community of team members that you're working with or alone. It really depends on you. So go into jams with the mentality that you want to learn new stuff and don't really care about taking the first place. Build your team or join another team, get to know people, and feel free to work on some games alone as well, because that's going to teach you about music, sound effects, visual effects, animations, game design, all these factors that make up game development as a term. Now, I want to end this video on a positive note. So most of us get into game development because we're genuinely interested and think it's fun, right? It doesn't feel like a chore because we're doing it because we want to. And when you start making money from something, it quickly evolves from being just a hobby that you do for fun into a business or work which you do for money. So when or if you start monetizing your projects and make money off of making games, don't ever forget the reason you started learning and the reason you're here. You picked this field of work because you like it. You find it fun, it's enjoyable, and it was, or maybe still is, your hobby. It's normal to sometimes feel burnt out. It's not abnormal. Everybody feels that way sometimes, and that's why we have vacations on regular jobs so people don't get burnt out. And don't forget to take some downtime for yourself as well. Go on vacations, meet up with friends, and don't turn your hobby or work into your life's main purpose. Don't live for the sake of this. Do it because you think it's fun and learn how to have fun with it. All right, so that was it for this session of Psychology with Sykoo. That'll be $500, please. PayPal only. Oh my God, I just realized. Psychology? I'll get myself out. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you have any questions or feel like you need help, make sure to let us know in the comments. You should also join our Discord server with almost 14,000 game developers, which of course is massive, and you can find a bunch of cool, like-minded game developers and people in there. You can join us through the link in the description. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the new videos. Also, don't forget to check out Milah Note once again, since planning solutions are incredible for game developers, and Milah Note, aside from being a sponsor, has a product that I can actually vouch for, and personally speaking, because I've used it and it has the features that I would want to have access to whenever I'm making a game. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the comment section and in our Discord.